You're watching Tim Topham TV. This is episode number 46. Hi everyone, and thanks for watching this episode of Tim Topham TV, the piano teaching podcast, where we're going to be interviewing Elena Cobb from the UK. Now, Elena, if you haven't come across her before, is a fantastic composer, teacher, and now publisher. And she's got some amazing resources that we can all take great advantage of. And so I wanted to get her on the episode to talk about teaching creatively, to talk a little bit about improvising and about jazz, because she has books and methods on all these different aspects of piano teaching. So I think you're going to enjoy this interview and finding out a little bit more about what she does with her music publishing. Now, today's episode, you can find the show notes at timtopham.com/episode 46. And as always, it would be fantastic if you have time to leave a review on iTunes. I would very much appreciate it. If you've been watching or listening, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, if you're getting something out of these and can spare 5 minutes maximum to leave a review, I'd really appreciate it. The instructions are really straightforward, and I've made it very clear for you at timtopham.com/iTunes. Now, in today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit about the kind of creative things that classically trained teachers can do. Elena herself is a classically trained musician who's now able to help her students with jazz and creativity at the piano and create books on it, and even run masterclasses and workshops around the world on it. And she's even training other people up in it. So we're going to talk a little bit about the jazz syllabus of the ABRSM and how that can be used by teachers for students who are interested in learning more about jazz. We're going to talk about specifically what jazz is and what kind of music that entails, because as Elena explained, sometimes students don't actually really know what jazz is. So we go into a little bit more detail about that, and we go into some important kind of ideas that you can use in your studio to get students improvising. So here's my interview with Elena Cobb. Show notes again at timtopham.com/episode 46. Well, Elena Cobb, fantastic to finally get you on the podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much, and I'm delighted to meet you finally.
It's been quite a long time. You have been so busy with very exciting projects and things. So I thought it would be great if you could just tell everyone to start with just what kind of things you do day to day at the moment. Are you still teaching, or is it mainly composing, or are you just working on your publishing business?
Just recently, I literally focusing on publishing and composing, and it's really full on at the moment.
Which is a good thing, right? That's good for business.
Yes, it is very good because I tend to get up early, have my breakfast, and then the work starts, and I go on till probably sometimes 1 o'clock in the UK, 1:30 in the morning. Because
oh wow, okay, yeah.
I couldn't stop the conversation if somebody wants to chat to me then or have a question about some downloads or anything like technical, or just a simple inquiry, or just a friendly chat. Obviously, I'll be very, very keen and tapping away, and yeah, so it does keep me busy. I try to get to the gym if I'm lucky. Doesn't happen very often recently, but that's just routine is no holidays, no weekends. It's just straightforward work, but I'm loving it.
Great. And so you started as a piano teacher, as all of us are, I think I'm right in saying, and you started producing your own books and method books and compositions and things like that. And that just has grown and grown and grown to the point now where you're also publishing other people's work. So have I got that right?
It is correct, but I tend to think about all of the books I publish, they're more resources, they're supplement resources to the lessons, because I wouldn't say that Higgledy-Piggledy is a method, it's a supplement book, and Piano Trip to London is more of good tunes to play along any methods. I know, for example, I did research and people commented that they are very happy to use that book with John Thompson's books, for example.
Right. So one of the things I really love about your a lot of the books that you've got, Higgledy Piggledy Jazz is one of the key ones, is that it's about helping classically trained musicians and teachers be able to teach improvising. And this is something that you know that I'm very passionate about, and I love helping teachers understand how to just do a 12-bar blues. You know, it's quite straightforward if you get over that kind of hump of I don't really know what I'm doing. So why do you feel that it's important for teachers to add creativity and improvising to their lessons?
Well, to be honest, when I grew up, even field release was considered very sort of too popular. So it was a very strict environment. So, and obviously that restriction kind of, you know, when I started to teach here in the UK, it was completely, you know, the tables turned, because the children and the parents were kind of not dictating, but, you know, saying, you know, we want to play this, we don't want to play that. And I very quickly realized that it's more of a customer driven situation when they determine the tone of the whole lesson. And this is when I first time heard when people would refer to music lesson as having fun. When I grew up, it wasn't fun. It meant to be hard work.
Yeah.
So, and I thought, that's great, because it was very refreshing, because, you know, I finally could decide on a repertoire which was not necessarily very prescriptive. But it had to be pedagogically sound and pianistically really well written. So, and the exams, obviously, in the UK, you know, we're very much driven to do the exams, you know, Associated Board of Royal Schools of Music or Trinity or other examination boards. But there is always a tune which is jazzy. And, you know, whenever I would play to my students, you know, which piece do you want? And as soon as we arrived to list C, there was no question, there was no brainer, it was always the jazzy one. So that kind of led me to believe that, you know, children wanted to play something in that sort of, you know, genre, but also it didn't include any improvisation at that time. It's not until I've discovered the jazz syllabus, when it was just basically introduced for the first time, I saw the sections for the improvisation, and this is kind of was an eye-opener for me, because classically trained, we are taught to play exactly what it says in the score, and we are supposed to be very diligent, very faithful to what composers' wishes were, and that's how we were assessed, primarily on how true to the composer's pieces, you know, we were performing. Where jazz was completely different. This is where, you know, completely different thing. You know, for the first time, pianists, you know, could decide which note to play and when. So
Shock
that's
horror.
when it's shocking horror, yes. And this is, you know, suddenly, you know, the flats open, freedom. And as you can imagine, you know, it's a common knowledge, you know, when you give freedom to somebody who never had a freedom, kids just didn't know what to do with it. At the first sort of moment, you know, I felt like, okay, how are we going to approach that? And of course, that sections of improvisations always suggested notes, which could be used, and obviously, you know, that helped a lot. I mean, everything else comes to it, you know, the blues scale and pentatonics and everything else. But at that moment, you know, my job was to introduce the different way of thinking to my students. And of course, Higgledy Piggledy came, you know, much later, because I just, you know, the tunes started to play in my head, because I was never encouraged to compose. I didn't know I could compose, and suddenly, you know, the tunes started flooding. And I remember my sister and I, we were in Japan. We had sort of concert there as a duet, and we were living in this a little country cottage in Japanese countryside. We were left alone to sort of recover from the long flight, and they had a piano there. And I remember I woke up and I went to that piano, which was covered in that heavy velvet thing. We removed it, and there was this, you know, shiny Yamaha. And I went sort of to that piano, and I suddenly started to play what became I Ate All the Chocolate. Da 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 da. And it just, you know, I don't know, it just
Is that one of
happened.
the higgledy-piggledy jazz tunes?
Yeah, it is. And then, of course, I wrote Polka Butterfly, which is completely not jazz piece. I mean, it's really, one of those folk polkas, Polka Butterfly, and very much in European tradition. But a lot of bands play music like that, and they take it away and they, improvise. So, and then, it kind of evolved from there, and I started to write it down and on a piece of paper, and then I discovered Sibelius, and starting to put notes into Sibelius, and then of course I had great support from the music department, and I guess I was very, very lucky, and I was encouraged to introduce jazz in a completely different way to students. But I have to stress that I'm not a jazzer, and I don't think some people, think, well, is she a jazzer? Is she classically trained? I am a classically trained, and that's what I am. But I understand that teachers today need to give pupils, students, what they really want to do, and not everybody wants to do it, but a large majority of students, they think they want to play jazz, but I have great many discussions with my jazzy friends, real jazzers, and very often it is just misunderstanding. What people think is jazz is it's really a jolly tune. And I'll tell you a very funny story. I remember when I just had a student and his mom, and they were just like, oh my God, we want to play jazz, and he's so good. And I was like, do you really know what jazz is? And I started to play a few standards, and I said, no, I don't like that. And I ran out of options. And I said, okay, hang on a minute. And I know he played entertainer. Somebody, taught him before me. And I just went and I played the march from opera Aida by Verdi, da 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 dum 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 da 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 dum. And the boy said, that's exactly what I want to play. And for me, it was like, okay, you have no idea. And it was very, very funny. And I still tell this story. So that's what I'm trying to say. The first thing we need to establish whether the child and the parents, they really understand what they want to play. And then some are very content with playing happy, jolly tunes. But those who want to be taught properly, obviously they need to start with basics, just basics of playing piano, because I don't think you can start with teaching improvisation to somebody who have no knowledge of how to play the piano, because according to the Guinness Book of Records, the piano is the hardest instrument to learn to play.
Is that a fact?
It is a fact. I've heard about it when I was driving in my car, and I was listening to a BBC radio show, and somebody, they had this call-in time when somebody can call in with a question, and there was this girl in the studio. She needed to come up with the answer within so long, and she came up with that, and she said, yes, the piano is the hardest instrument to learn to play. But I have a question for you. Do you know which instrument is the hardest to play?
So, sorry, piano is the hardest to learn. You're saying which is the hardest to play?
Yeah.
Violin.
No, I thought that. French horn.
Oh, yeah, okay, yes.
Yeah,
that is a struggle.
So
yeah.
People that often think, I want to play the piano, I will be very good just because I want to play the piano. But this is the most important thing. If you want to play it, you will have that enthusiasm and will be able to overcome all the difficulties of the tediousness, of the process which sometimes you go through the motions. So this is where jazz comes in. To me, it was like a carrot. So it was a carrot to get my students to play and learn to play and have fun and progress. But that was a glue which would glue them to playing also the exam pieces, because that's what parents wanted us to do. And this is, I'm just carrying on. You stop me.
Yeah, no.
It's like their favorite topic.
It's really good to hear, because I approach using jazz and pop music in particular in exactly the same way. And I've never sort of advocated a diet of only pop or only jazz. It's part of a holistic approach to lessons. And as you say, in many ways, it is the carrot or the glue that keeps the kids playing and learning as they go. whatever happens down the future, we're not really sure. They might end up jazz musicians, they might end up classical musicians, but by doing this, we're going to keep them learning.
That's so very true. But the most interesting fact, I always, the opinions are very sort of today is that only jazz specialists can teach jazz. And I completely agree with that. But here is the thing. Jazz was created by people who were not trained. Neither classical academic.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to read a single note. They knew three chords, what we call tonic, subdominant, and dominant. And they just created this fascinating stuff without reading a single note or without understanding the progressions and cadences and deviations and modulations. We know that. So I think, the process came, what was, naturally evolving. When it was classified and became what we know today, it became a very complex form of art. And yes, I agree, it needs to be taught by a specialist. But what I did, I composed a book, and I didn't sit down and think, oh, I'm going to create this book because I'm so very clever. I just created this book because I thought my students would love it. And then sections of improvisation were added later after I took advice from Bradley Sowash and Leila Biss. Of course, you know them.
They're good friends.
And I remember that Bradley said, what kind of jazz it is if there is no section for improvisation? I thought, he's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I added that. So I thought that was very important, and I completely agree with him, because jazz is something which requires that freedom when you walk away from the score and you take charge. And that's the hardest bit, of course.
Now, you mentioned earlier, I just want to go back. Jazz syllabus, that may be RSM?
Yes, we have 5 grades created for the piano, and they it works when it works, but in some cases it doesn't work because it's, as I said, everyone is different. And I think they created it very much with the same approach like they did for the classical piano. They also have so many pieces, so many scales, so many this and so many that. And I must say I had most distinctions in my career when I taught that. It was so much fun. I remember when boys and girls got it. Oh my God, the piano sounded so good, because I think they felt very, very good about themselves because they were doing something. I mean, we're talking 98, 99, so it's been like a long time ago. And obviously now jazz pieces and jazz syllabus been around for such a long time, and children. I mean, those children are already like, goodness me, they must be 30 now.
Yeah.
They're all
but that
children.
was your catalyst.
Yeah, so. It's a good thing. I would recommend if somebody wants to try. I think it's a very good method to sort of because it also allows one to take an exam and have a certificate at the end.
Even though they're looking at I think it's the only jazz examined syllabus in the world. We have a very strong exam culture over here, as you're probably aware. And I've explored that jazz syllabus, and I think there's got a lot of merit to it. And it's quite structured, which for a classical trained teacher, it would be quite good because it is quite ordered. So I think we need to just clarify before we go on, because I want to get some tips from you about this approach to jazz for the teachers listening. What is jazz? We've talked about what it isn't. It's not the polka or something from Verdi's opera. What, in your opinion, what is it? Can you define it simply?
Jazz, it's a freedom of expression, because again, it's an ability not to play what it says, because it's a free will. Because when we play classical music, we follow the will of the composer. With jazz, it's our own will. If you play alone, you just get on with it. If you play with others, you obviously have to agree. You do that much on that, and then everybody has a section when they improvise, and you agree on which order, or a leader nods to whoever. If you've been in a situation, you know what I mean. You say, okay, we play this 3 times, and then we go, you go, you go, you go, and that is fine. But it takes a professional who understand that environment, and most importantly, one needs to count the bars, the times around, and to stay in control, where classically we have everything written, so we don't have to do that. So yeah, that's how it's different to me. That's what jazz is to me.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so let's give teachers some tips here. Obviously we'll talk about some of your resources because they're fabulous, and it would be great to do that. But there's some things that teachers can do when if they have a student that says they want to learn jazz, and it is actually jazz, it's not something from the opera. How do they approach it? Where could they start?
Well, the most important thing is, as you said, the two people in the room need to want to do it. Because if you force it, it's not going to work, because that becomes, as I said, oh, should I, must I? It has to have this element of, again, of free will. Once this is achieved, I think the best thing to do, that's how I started to create my exercises, because for me to explain how the sections for improvisations work, I needed to explain to my pupils. So as you know, the most intriguing part of teaching to play the piano is not actual notes, it's the rhythm. Because the rhythm and the timing, that holds all together. So the first thing I would say for teachers, decide on how many bars you're going to do, and then make sure to count those bars with the pupil. For example, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. So that length of time, that would be, the structure. Then you say, okay, we're going to play 4 chords. Sorry, we're going to play chord C during these 4 bars. So the pupil will have understanding that actually in jazz you don't have to change every single note, because if you look at the classical repertoire, everything just changes all the time. Where
That's why
in jazz,
such a challenge. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you look at a 12-bar blues, the left hand just carries on for 4 bars on chord C, or whether it's walking bass, whether you play something else, whether you play boogie boogie, will stay on C. So that's most important, just to lay that foundation and try to explain to people that actually you don't have to change, you just have to stay on this pattern, whatever you call it. And then go to next chord, get the F for 2 bars, then go back to C. So you lay the foundation of that formula, I call it, progression of 12 bars. Once that's established, then you have to choose, okay, which notes you're going to be improvising on. So in my tunes, it's a blues scale, because I just felt that, okay, if you want to sound bluesy, you need blues notes. Because if you want to sound in major, you use major. If you want to sound in minor, you use in minor. So I explain to children, or I explain to adults, or a teacher would need to explain which are those notes on the piano. And you don't need a book for that. You absolutely don't need a book. You look down and this is the note you need. This is your C, that's your E flat, that's your F. But the best thing to do, I've learned from a great friend of mine, Sophie Freeman, and she's a great jazzer. You don't need great many notes. All you need to do is understanding what you're going to do with one note first. So if you just have one note, sort out your left hand, all these chords, just doom, doom,
keeping a steady beat, yep.
Doom, doom. And then the right hand, before you start playing, develop that rhythm. What you're going to be doing? Da, 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 and you go. Just C, where the left hand goes. C, and it's no point explaining how does it rhythmically coincide. You can do tap it on the table. That is very helpful just to sort it out. So, but once you establish it with one note, just add another note. Go to C flat. So instead of going C, go C, E flat, C flat, da, 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 and change left to go to F. And this is the most important thing, when children and teachers would know that even you change the left hand, right hand can stay the same. That's the beauty of it, because they will work together. These two notes, they will C chord and an F. You know that, but for classically trained, that's very difficult to understand. I mean, they shouldn't work, but they do.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's yeah.
It's a really similar approach to Christopher Norton as well. I had him on my podcast episode way back in episode 2. He was talking about improvising, and he has that same approach, as you're probably aware.
Oh, really?
Just start with one note. Just start with one note.
Start with one note, exactly.
Mm.
And that's it. Then add another note, but change the rhythm. And then before you know it, the most important thing is, some say, oh no, you play the wrong note when you play classical. In jazz, there is no wrong note.
No,
as soon as
right.
you played a different note, it's already become improvisation. So
exactly, yeah.
Oh my God, you just improvised, and this is fantastic moment, because the you know, the little guys, you know, eyes just lit up and say, oh my God, and it just takes us, you know, that sort of, once you sorted out these first steps, and that gives that, you know, impact and enthusiasm, because I don't believe in overcomplicating things and going into sophisticated leagues and all sorts of things. I'm talking classically trained beginners, which is somebody who just had maybe a year training on the piano, who sort of late elementary level. Who as teacher need to go down to that level, and that's what I did with the higgledy-piggledy jazz and improv exercises. Just take it down to that level, what that little person knows, and work with that. Or of course, if you have somebody older, you can be a little bit more sort of, you know, more I don't know, adventurous. But these basic steps, what I suggested, sort of left hand, 12 bars, work this out, start with one note and work your way up. And of course, then you start moving to, you know, up and down the blues scale.
Yeah.
But you need to have a fantastic improvisation for that sort of, you know, it can be done in one lesson. And I remember when I started to introduce these things, you know, to my students, we would literally do 5 minutes, because we needed to do so much more. And I remember that in lessons,
I advocate the same thing. It can just be a part of a lesson. That's, you know, it connects the student with the piano and with their ears and gets their mind focused. It's a great way to begin. Yeah, it has to be that element, you know, okay, let's do this, just, you know, but I never used it to relax, because I think, first of all, lessons too short. As soon as you say relax, they kind of go, relax. Yeah. But it was like, okay, let's try this, you know, let's just change the hat, you know, let's put a jazz hat and let's just try to do that. So I think it's a fantastic way. And I remember you said, you know, why do I think it is important? I'm talking again, beginner's level. I'm talking, you know, children who just started to play, or adults who just started to play the piano. You know, classically trained teachers we teach all so many different genres. We are confident in talking about Baroque. We're confident about talking expressionism and impressionism and romantic and classical. We understand the modernes. We understand diminished septochords. We are fluent in all these things. And suddenly we kind of pale in, how do you say it, in insignificance. I'm sorry, I'm not English, so I'm sometimes, you know, miss a plot, but you know what I mean. And we kind of feel that, oh my God, I shouldn't be doing this, because they say to us that we cannot do this. But in fact, we have all the tools. All we need to do, and I mean, you know, I've done workshops and I talk to great many, you know, audiences. All we need to do, we just need to look at it in a slightly different way, and not to propose, oh no, I can teach jazz. No, I propose that you can give that first impact. And as you said, we don't know what's going to happen to that little person in your room, or a big person in your room. They come and they want to be taught to play the piano, and we need to be able to give them information. And of course, if somebody is really, really keen and capable, you know, in the past, I passed great many students to the jazz specialist teacher. And actually, I would be initiating the conversation. I would be saying,
do you know what? I think it would be a great idea that at this point you would consider that the best thing to do would be to move to the, to a teacher who would give you instruction. Yeah.
I'm not a men's jazz player. Now, in regard to Higgledy Jazz, you've mentioned this. This is one of your main books. Is this a kind of book that a teacher can use to help them with understanding and introducing improvisation?
I think so. I definitely would go for it because it has all elements. You have a choice there. You can ignore the section for a top bar which suggests improvised notes, and you can have what I call notated jazz. You can play exactly what it says. So,
okay.
Or if they feel adventurous, they can certainly use it as introducing to the jazz elements. And it's, as I said, there is no a long paragraph of paragraphs of how to do it. It's pretty self-explanatory what can happen, and I think to do that, it's really important to test the situation whether a student is really that interested. Because, as I said, 99% wants just to play a jolly tune, but that 1% who won't pursue it, they'll go through the book, they'll play it, or they'll use a great many books. As you mentioned, Christopher Norton, I met him a couple of times. He's a great guy. We have a picture with him taken together in London in Music Expo. It was a fun event. Music awards we have every year in London.
Yeah, I'd like to come across for that one year, actually.
So beg your pardon?
I'd like to come across for that one year. It looks fantastic. Because I know Sally Cathcart and those guys, and also remembering names, Mackworth Young, Lucinda. Yeah, so
Lucinda. Yes, I know her.
And I saw them all. They were there, and I would have loved to have been to some of those sessions. It looks great.
Well, I think they put a call out for workshops. Shall I send you a link?
Yes, please do. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, as soon as I finish, I will look it up.
All right,
because
thank you.
The team who is organising it. They're a fantastic team. You will receive an email. It will be signed by John Barrett.
Okay.
He's the one who sort of runs all the marketing side and that sort of thing. So you can write it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'll look out for that. Thank you. All right. So
next year.
Yeah, that's it. No, it'd be good to meet you face to face too.
Definitely.
So with the jazz books, Higgledy Piggledy, is there a series or is it just one book? And does it work for different levels? How do they suit students?
Well, basically, there are 10 tunes. They go from late elementary to intermediate. Because, as I said, I wanted to have a book. That's the book. Plug. And basically, it kind of goes from easier pieces to more complicated. But there is a secret in that book. The pieces which have improvisational sections, they're all in C major. And they kind of are improvisation on itself.
Mm-hmm.
And children and teachers who played it, they came to me and said, Helena, you can just play one after another and they sound like improvisation. And that's exactly what they are, because I wanted to give them material which could be used and applied to different pieces in different keys, because I know teachers prescribe those to play in different keys, and it's very easily done because they can be transposed without a problem. And it's another great way of using the book.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Because the book was so popular, I was asked to do a book for saxophone. So Sophie Freeman, she was the editor for the sax edition. And then there is the book for classical guitar ensemble. Another great friend of mine helped me because I have no idea about the classical guitar. He used it so many times, and I know people are very happy with that book. Also, there is a clarinet ensemble book. So it's really all together. This series didn't go like for piano, up. It rather went same pieces for piano, alto saxophone, classical guitar ensemble, clarinet ensemble, and there are 2 pieces for ukulele as well. So basically my idea was to give a school something they can put together and use all these books and include lots of little performers, because the school concerts, you're like 200 kids. How do you put them all in a music concert which needs to last like 45 minutes? You create an ensemble.
So you're saying the book, so the person who's on the piano book can play along to the person on the sax book in the same piece.
Yeah. Or classical guitar ensemble, or clarinet, or ukulele. And that's basically it. And the original book had a CD, which I recorded with my friends. We went to the studio and we had like 4 or 5 sessions when we basically, it's a live recording. So, and it was mastered, and it's like a proper job. I really, decided it's going to be amazing. And we spent a long time sorting it out. And I felt, it was another aspect I wanted to give to my students, that little people, pianists, we never have any chances to be in a band, because if you play flute or clarinet, before you know it, you can play 2 notes, off you go to the band, and they all play in the band, they play in a flute choir or ensemble with others, or if they play violin, they're in an orchestra. Pianists, we don't have piano orchestras, do we? Unless you have them in Australia, I don't know. So
not common. No.
So I wanted this, experience, and of course the CD is recorded in 4 different ways, which is really a practicing tool. So I
was going to say, are they backing tracks for the jazz tune?
They're backing tracks. But I wanted that experience so they can practice. They can break down the entire piece, and they practice only left hand, for example, and they can listen to the track, which has piano as well, and they can just play left hand only chords on C. But it teaches them to learn to listen, because pianists, we don't listen, do we? We are solid.
No, that's right. No, that's why I really love playing along with my students. Getting them to play like backing tracks, really important. Yeah. Now, you've also got a method, I think, I'm correct in calling it the My Piano Trip to London. Would you call that a beginner method? Is that right?
In the beginning, when people saw that, they said, oh, it could work as a method. And I actually wrote it as tunes.
So it's a book of music.
It's a musical book. It's again a resource which really works really well as not as method, but as pieces used occasionally. Okay. Because there are a lot of little people who play the piano at this level. So their pieces literally can be taught by and prepared for the concert by somebody who had a couple of lessons. That was the idea. And it has duet parts for teacher.
That's right, yeah.
Or it could be played by older student or a parent or a grandparent. So it's more, again, a supplement. As I said, there are so many methods around. It's really, it's not all about competition with me, a market and such. It's more of I'm driven by the fact that I want to give kids a book with amazing tunes. The tunes they want to play, and they will learn, and they feel amazing about themselves. And that basically, that's what the book is about. For little people to perform as soon as they can.
Yeah, and music that they like. Yeah, that's good. That's what we want, isn't it? I mean, why force kids to play music that you wouldn't even be inspired to play or listen to? I don't understand. Right? Yeah. Right. So you've now got an online publishing business. So not only are you writing your own music, you're actually publishing other people's music, and you've got some pretty impressive names in your publishing business. So I'm interested. How did it come about that you went down this publishing line?
To be honest, the honest answer, I have no idea. All good things happened for a reason, I think. And I, through the years when I only had one book and I made a recording, I had experience of creating many events, and we're talking events where up to like 86 children would perform my music. And we would have sold out audiences, and we would have a presenter from the BBC, and it was all very high profile for that event, and it was all very well put together because I had such enthusiasm behind the everybody involved, parents and the school and headmasters, and I'm eternally grateful. But through that, I started to meet people who were real professional musicians who are currently performing and recording, and that kind of put me in their line of vision. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I didn't talk about my higgledy-piggledy jazz continuously to all my friends, or they would talk to me about it because it was my life, and they probably would mention to them something, and they would say, "Oh, Elena just published this book." And my first higgledy-piggledy book was I call it my little monster. It looked awful. Oh my goodness. I look at it. I don't think I was absolutely clueless. So I wasn't going to publishing because I just wanted to see it in print because, I just had a go. That's what people say. You have a go. And then, of course, I was never taking any comments in the wrong way. Every comment was made was taken by advice. And from that, I've learned and I improved, and I continuously do that. And I'm still kind of, learning. But what I really wanted to do, I wanted to produce a very good book. And from that, I started to meet people who would say, "Oh, can I send you my stuff?" And of course, if I know somebody who is amazing in their job, how could I say no?
Mm.
So the first guide was Paul Birchall, and of course, Paul, he is an amazing keyboard player. He's absolutely terrific. When he sent me the list of people he performed with, my jaw just dropped.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Oh my God, this is absolutely amazing. And this guy is absolute gem." So when he sent me his music, I loved it. And he was the first composer. He trusted me with his music, and his daily expressions are so sincere. And there is nothing about it, which, sometimes you look at music and you think, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it was nothing. It just jumped at me. So that was the first time when I kind of, took that, courage, and I said, "Do you want me to publish it?" He said, "Oh yeah, but yes, let's do that." But because I knew his background, and he played, as I said, I check who he played with, so I don't lie. Hang on.
And I assume he didn't have any luck with other publishers too. Did he shop around?
To be honest, no, I don't think so. Okay. I don't think so, because it was a conversation, because he recorded something for me with Snake Davis. He's an amazing jazz player, saxophonist, and they did a recording with their band of 4 of my pieces, and they're on such a professional level. I still need to put them out. I mean, they're sitting on my library. And because I knew of the quality of work he produced for me, it was, it was a question, would you like me to publish it? Yes, and it was just, that's it. So basically, he hang on. Oh, I'm embarrassed now, I can't remember. Oh, basically he plays with, M People.
Yeah, I remember the M People from the 90s.
Yeah, you remember we all were dancing,
Yeah, totally.
So he basically recorded with them, and he's touring with them. Oh gosh, Jim Diamond.
Yeah. Let's say it doesn't matter too much anyway. I'm more interested in how it came about. But what other things, if you were to give a quick overview of your catalogue at the moment,
okay,
what would you say people would be finding there that they wouldn't get somewhere else?
Okay, first of all, I'm focused on publishing original music. I'm not too keen on arrangements. I think that modern composers, living composers, they just need to be heard today. They need to have that opportunity, and I'm after that. That's my goal, and I'm on a mission, basically, to seek out excellent examples of educational music. It has to be clever. it has to be pedagogically and pianistically sound, because as I said, you know, as a pianist, I understand what it is all about. So it needs to fit to the you know, to the scheme of things, you know, and needs to be attractive proposition. So that's what I'm after. I want to have original music by living composers for educational market.
Yeah. And you've got, I was very interested to see, you've got a lot of music that looks like it would suit teenagers quite well and adult learners.
Yes. Yeah, that's another thing, because I mean, you know, after over 20 years, nearly 20 years after teaching, I've noticed there was like the trend after grade 5. Kids would say, oh, I don't want to do exams anymore. I want just to play the piano, which is fair enough, because grade 6, 7, and 8 are very complicated and you need to practice. And they all have a school exams, so they don't want to do it anymore, or they don't have time. So there was immediately that, you know, gap. What do you do next? Because they want to explore. And this is where very often arrangements are very difficult to play, because when you listen to something like, I don't know, Memories, have you taught one of those?
Memory from Cats?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or the Titanic. I mean, they all sound fabulous, but once you put them into sort of in front of a student, it doesn't sound so fabulous anymore. So
no, they're very difficult.
Okay. Yeah, it's as I say, reduction, and I'm not so keen on reductions for that particular reason. Unless you're playing it with the band, it kind of loses the whole attractiveness of it. So I'm kind of interested in having a music which is popular in style, and whether it's a disco, and I actually have example of house music, if you believe it.
Yes, I saw that. No, I saw it. I listened to it.
Oh,
Yes,
amazing. Yeah. So,
cool.
for example, Sam Wedgwood, he's writing a fantastic pop style music, and disco as well. And Heather Hammond, she's a big name, of course. She writes.
I must say I don't know her name, but that's, you know, we're all in different areas, aren't we?
Yeah, she's quite a big name in the UK. I'm very, very proud to represent her. And the music they write, it just fits to what teenagers want, because it's not too complicated, it's not too growing up, it's cool, it's hip. They just love it.
And they sound good, and they enjoy playing it, which is important. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, look, I think I'm keen to wrap it up, because we're coming up to our hour anyway. Where should people go to find out more about you and have a listen to some of this cool music that you've got?
Well, obviously my website is elenacobb.com. So can I just, say that about the quality of books? I think, the books, they all produced to the very, very good standard, and I mean, people are a bit skeptical of purchasing online, but I think I try to write a very tight shop and send the books near enough. If it's before certain time of the day, they will go to the post, but all the books are very well produced. They have very good engravings, and it's worthwhile to buy a book. I also have a Facebook group, and users who are listening, they're very, very welcome to join. It's Elena Cobb Publishing discussion group on Facebook, where I regularly promote. On Mondays, for example, I always have giveaway competition. So it's either of the catalogue I have, or somebody who is a guest presenter. And teachers can win something, some new material. Or on Fridays, I have freebies when people can try stuff out. So I'm very keen to be very sort of welcoming, to talk about my music and try it out. On the website, I have audio samples and previews. So I do try to make it as sort of easy to see, because it's a completely different formula, I suppose, to the traditional music shop, where people can walk in and try and hold the book and go to the piano. When they buy on the internet, they don't have that. So I do try to make it as easy as it can be, because it's like
scans and the demo tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's like a virtual music shop, really.
Do you do downloads?
Yes, I do. I have digital downloads. It's a large catalog there as well, so
Right.
people can buy digital downloads either of single tunes or books.
Okay,
Uh,
because I know that for people in Australia and in the States who are listening, transport costs can be huge. So it's a good option to have.
Speaking of costs, I have a good friend, a piano teacher in Alabama, Rick Roberts, and he says that it actually is cheaper to order books from me than to drive to his music shop in Alabama.
And buy the same book there.
But buy books because he says the nearest to him is quite far away. So he says what he spends on petrol is actually
Right.
to buy it. So yeah, it's one can argue about the costs, but
Yep.
I think the costs aren't that much. And I know that people reported that my books would arrive to the States, for example, within like up to 6 days. So it's not too bad, because I know I checked some American postal services do exactly the same within the United States. And imagine how far the books travel from me. So I'm kind of saying, go for it.
Yeah. Well, at least go to Elena's site and check out her music, because I can't wait to try out some of your some of the teen stuff, because that's the group that I teach almost exclusively now, and it looks really cool. Yeah, I saw that one.
I'm very proud. I love beautiful things, and I like quality things. So that's what I kind of, my publishing company is all about new, because it's very new. The names are maybe not as new, but I'm new to that, in comparison to some very, very old houses, publishing houses. But as I said, my message is that, modern music needs to be heard today and needs to be played today by students of today.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to meet you finally and see and hear all the stuff you're doing. I'm going to dig into your music, and I hope others who are listening get inspired to check out your site. So it's Elena, ELANACOBB, elenacobb.com.
Yeah, that's cool.
Great. Yep. And I would encourage you to jump on there, have a look, particularly if you're the classically trained musician who would like some jazzy tunes and some approach to jazz teaching. I think Elena can definitely help you there. And I'll look forward to hopefully seeing you maybe next year sometime. My family heritage is actually English, so I've got a lot of relatives over there.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Any other final things to mention before we sign off?
I don't know. I just mentioned that the composer's name. Maybe somebody want to know. So I have fantastic books by Heather Hammond, Ollie Wedgwood, Sam Wedgwood, Melanie Spanswick, Jenny Walker, Donald Thompson, Barbara Aarons. I'm trying not to forget somebody. Alison Matthews.
Now you've done it, because now you're gonna forget someone.
I know I will.
A lot of these people.
I'm really, really sorry. And Paul Birchall, there you go. Remember that? Yeah. So a lot
of these people will be known to people who hang out online as well, because, for example, Melanie Spanswick's got a great blog, and I know a lot of those names I recognise. So I'm sure others will too.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, Elena, we better sign off. I'll let you get on with your other things today. Thank you so much for spending time with me on the podcast today.
Thank you so very, very much. And I'm really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to meeting you, because that would be amazing. London is my favorite place. Music Expo is a fantastic place to come.
Brilliant. We can have a jam session. I think it would be good fun.
Oh yeah.
All right then. See you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
If the idea of a piano teachers community where you get to access the best educational resources, rub shoulders with expert teachers from around the world, and have immediate access to feedback for any of your questions, then Inner Circle membership is for you. The Inner Circle is my private community of piano teachers from across the globe who share a commitment to creating and delivering the most inspiring, modern and progressive learning experiences for their students. Membership is now open, so head to timtopham.com/community to find out more and get involved today. I can't wait to see you on the inside.